Hello, everyone. Today I'm here with Geoff Walker. Why don't
Hi.
you why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Well, I am Michigan.records on Instagram, and I buy and sell records, and I have been doing that full time for over 12 years now, and I just love music and records and uh, doing events where we sell records as a community building opportunity for me. And I grew up in Michigan from the Upper Peninsula and moved to Ann Arbor in 1989 to go to the University of Michigan and worked at a record store there. And sometimes I feel like I could have skipped college and maybe grad school and just worked in the record industry, but that's not the direction I took at the time.
Yeah.
But it's where I ended up, and so I host events in Marquette, where I grew up, and I help organize some events here in the Lower Peninsula. And um, I'm just always buying and selling records. It's not that early in the day for most people here at about 11:30 a.m., but I've already bought records about 10 times
Oh,
online.
wow.
Yeah, you see something come through my email that says special opportunity, and I can't resist it. So I um, bought a bunch of jazz records this morning, and getting ready to uh, work on pricing a bunch of records for an event coming up in Grand Ledge this Sunday. I don't know when this interview will go live, but Sunday, February 22nd, at Sanctuary Spirits in Grand Ledge. Michigan Rural Records from Grand Ledge is hosting an event there that
Nice.
I'm taking part in. So
Sounds
there,
fun.
yeah.
So, what was it like growing up in the UP? And do you have a place up there that's nostalgic or maybe just your favorite place to visit?
Well, what was it like? It's hard to. It's kind of a hard question to answer because I only had that as my experience. I don't know what it was
Right.
like compared to anything else, other than the fact that when I was um, a preteen and teenager, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have a lot of things that make music really available in a wide, much obviously much wider way than it was at that time. So I think about a lot of things in terms of records, and um, and I I had a paper route, and I took my money to the local record store on my bike. It's called Teletronics Discount Records. I ended up working there when I was in my last year in high school. Um, so I was really consistently pursuing records as a kid. I would walk 5 miles to the Shopko store with my allowance and paper route money to buy things out of the cutout bin so I could maximize my music dollar and carry them home and listen to them obsessively. It was, I mean, Marquette's a really cool town. It's a lot different than it was then, as most places are, or many places are. It was pretty isolated. I wasn't a really big outdoors person. I mean, I certainly enjoyed being outside and hiking and swimming in Lake Superior and things like that, but it wasn't my focus. So I was thinking about what was going on in bigger areas like Ann Arbor and Detroit or Chicago or even Green Bay, because those were the places that had rock shows and had record stores. So it wasn't that there was a shortage of stuff for me to find. It's just that the grass was always greener somewhere else. And so it wasn't until I was, I don't know, maybe even after college, that I went home for a holiday and to Marquette, and as I was driving along the shore of Lake Superior, had this feeling of relief and relaxation, like, I'm home. So when you ask if there's a place that a particular place that's nostalgic for me, it's really the whole of Marquette, especially. I mean, I as a kid in the '70s, we didn't have a lot of restriction as to what we could do. I was a latchkey kid. I'd come home from school, let myself in the house and watch TV or listen to music or get on my bike and ride around town or go over to my friend's house and we would get on our bikes and ride around town uh, and so when I'm in Marquette, it's always a feeling of seeing through the past where this is where I did this or that or the other thing. And yeah, Marquette's a pretty uh, nostalgic place for me. My brother lives 2 blocks from where we grew up. My one of my best friends lives 1 block from where we grew up. Uh, when I go up there, which is at least 5 times a year to do record shows, I see all of these places that I have known for a long, long time, and it's really kind of special. I think that a lot of people are distanced from their past in a way that I'm lucky to not be, in a sense where um, my people that I've known 45, 50 years, I am actively friends with, uh, and assume I will be in for the rest of my life.
That's nice.
Yeah.
You were a psychologist in San Francisco for a while. What's the Bay Area like, and what did that experience teach you?
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I wasn't a psychologist. I studied clinical psychology, specializing in expressive arts therapy. And so, expressive arts therapy is using creative arts or encouraging clients to use creative arts to look at their goals and issues. So that's, could be drawing or dancing or uh, music or film. So there's receptive art therapy, listening to music, watching film, looking at art, and active art therapy or arts therapy, because it's not just art, it's music and dance and everything else. So active, writing or reading, or not reading, but writing or movement. And I was in school for 3 of the 5 years that I lived in the Bay Area. The 2 years prior to that, I worked part of that time for the California Labor Federation. Before and during that, I was uh, trying to be a professional musician there. I came out of Michigan as a rock musician. I left here not long after a band that I had been in for a long time broke up, and I had a lot of music contacts out there. So I spent a lot of time in creative pursuits in the Bay Area. I mean, what's it like? It's hard to say what it's like. It's different. People think of California as being warm. San Francisco is not typically warm. You can wear a jacket a lot of the time. But I've spent more hot summer days on the beach in Marquette than I ever did in San Francisco. And very dense. San Francisco is 49 square miles, and and the population is, I don't know what it is now, but the population density is much greater than most parts of Michigan. So I miss being able to walk out the door and go around the corner and get Filipino food and Peruvian food and on and on and on, or stop on the way back from those restaurants and pick up just about anything you can imagine to take home to cook later. Um, I had a lot of friends there that uh, made the my landing there easier, I think, than it would have been if I hadn't known anybody. But at the same time, the cost of living is different there, and so everybody was busy. It felt like to me anyway, where it felt like everybody not only had their job, but maybe had a side gig and then was doing their creative pursuits on top of that. So where I thought that I was going to go and start or join three bands, I kind of had a lot of false starts and just one-off things that I did for a long time that were fun, enjoyable. I made a lot of music and did a lot of recording and put out a bunch of, well, I was on a bunch of records that got made there, but nothing turned into, didn't turn into something that kept me there. In
Yeah.
any case, obviously, because here we are.
It's interesting that you mentioned the food because so my sister recently moved to New York
Okay.
and I've been visiting her a lot out in New York City and one of the things I always think about when I come home is, man, I miss the food. There's so many different options and so many things that you can get there that just don't exist here.
Hmm.
So also, who's got the better bridge?
We have the best fridge.
Of
Well,
course.
I noticed it was closed today. It is closed right now.
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
So do you have a favorite genre of music or a favorite artist?
No. Uh, when people say, "What's your favorite record?" I always say Black Sabbath Volume 4. And I say it because it's true, though I feel like, sometimes I have to question whether it's really true or if it's just what I've started to say habitually. Um, I had a copy of Black Sabbath Volume 4 on cassette that I got from, I know I've mentioned it twice already, Shopko, which is a chain of, like it's like a small Meyer store type thing in Wisconsin and Upper Michigan. But I got this cassette from the cutout bin. It was a Dutch import that I had when I had a car. It was in my tape deck, and then when I got another car, it was in my tape deck, and it stayed in my tape deck so long that I knew that I could hit the auto reverse button at the particular points to get to a different song at the starting point on the other side of the tape. I was in my tape deck until it broke. And the next day, I drove to this was in the Bay Area. I drove to a Rasputin's store in the East Bay and bought another copy of Volume 4 and had it in my tape deck for a long, long time. So I don't have a favorite genre. I mean, I listen to a lot of jazz, a lot of dub reggae, a lot of post punk, a lot of singer songwriter material. Um, I mean, I'm a pretty wide ranging listener.
Yeah, I think that's good for people to listen to multiple genres. I mean, sure, lots of people have a favorite, but I don't know. I just feel like being able to branch out and listen to all different kinds of music is nice. So, how did you get involved with Detroit Book Fest?
My good friend Carlton Goals is the founder of the Detroit Sound Conservancy. And if you don't know the Detroit Sound Conservancy, DSC, they're a nonprofit here in Detroit whose goal is to preserve Detroit's musical legacy and share information about our musical heritage with the world. And so Carlton, as the founder, was taking part in what I believe was the second BookFest event and invited me to bring some boxes of records and take care of his table and talk about Detroit Sound Conservancy. We had posters and T-shirts with Detroit Sound Conservancy logos and information packets and stuff like that to give to people because he didn't have a lot of he didn't have books, he didn't have a lot of physical stuff to offer. So he said, "Hey, do you want to bring some records and sell records and talk about DSC?" And then I can run around and talk to other people and do some work that way. And I said, sure. So we did that. It was a lot of fun. And then we did that again with, I did it with him and my partner from Marquette, who I mentioned earlier, who lives a block from where I grew up, my friend John Teichman, who is my Marquette vinyl partner. We do events there together and events down here together. Came down and we did that with Carlton. Anyway, that's how I got started with them. And then somehow we didn't stick together. Carlton was transitioning in his position there, and DSC didn't have a table, and I didn't think to apply on my own, so I wasn't there. And then the following year, I thankfully thought in time that maybe I should do it by myself, and so I did. And then since then, John has been coming down from Marquette to join me there, and we just have a really good time setting up near the DJ Seven Wales. Shout out to DJ Seven Wales, does a great job of bringing the funk all day long. So yeah, that's how I got started. And that's how I continued.
Nice. So you have the unique perspective of both committee member and vendor. What makes Detroit Book Fest work so well, and what makes the event unique?
It's a great question. So Ryan, uh, uh, who's the founder of Detroit Book Fest, asked me to come sit in on one of their meetings, and when I'm available, I do and have been since then. Um, I was pleasantly surprised that he was interested in getting my perspective on the event. Um, I do a lot of events, and what makes this special and unique is it's not just one thing. It's a free event to attend. It's open air. I mean, it's mostly covered, though in the last couple of years, it's been so popular that it's expanded to a much larger footprint at Eastern Market. But if the weather's nice, and it thankfully usually is, we roll the
Yeah.
doors up, and so there's this open air feeling, and the range of people participating as presenters is great. There are um, uh, people of color, there are women, there are people of all stripes of gender orientation, and young people. I mean, was it last year or the year before? I don't recall. Now they kind of mash together in my mind because it's such a frenzied a day when it happens. But um, uh, the author behind me, we're always really happy to meet our neighbors. I've never had a bad neighbor at BookFest. It's always somebody really cool. I'm usually right by Tony Green, who's a fabulous musician and producer and entrepreneurial artist here in Detroit. But this young author behind me, a young 7-year-old girl who um, sold her book. I mean, she had a book she wrote, and then accessories branded with that. She sold out of a couple of her items. Her mom was there with her, but she didn't want her mom at the table. She wanted to be there,
That's so
take
cute.
care of it herself. It was cute, and it was inspiring. I mean, she talked to everybody that came up to the table, and did took care of business, handled money, and talked about her art and her creativity, and so what makes it special is that everybody is welcome, everybody comes, everybody shows up, and I can't say that there's never anybody who's frustrated by something, because if you get 15,000 people together in one place,
Yeah.
someone's not going to have a good time or come with a bad attitude or whatever. But by and large, it's just a really positive experience. It's a positive vibe. The uh, the people that make it work are all committed. It is almost completely volunteer run. I mean, there's hardly anything that isn't involved with it, and I think that's really hard for people to imagine or understand, because it's so massive and it's so smoothly run. I mean, I get there and tables are in place, and everybody's just making things happen. And like I said, I've participated in and run a lot of events, and that's uncommon. So the attitude, the ability to take things in stride, to adapt, and to really make it available and special for all groups is I think what makes it what it is.
Yeah. Um, how did selling vinyl records become your full-time job?
Well, um, when my wife and I, when Suma and I came back to Michigan from the West Coast, I opened a private practice as a life coach and thought that it would be fairly easy to get enough clients to make that work here in the Detroit area. I mean, I lived here for a long time before I moved out west. I know a lot of people, um, and I opened an office with a couple of people who are professional body workers, craniosacral therapists, and we had a couple other people at different points. And we hosted um, free events with sound healing and massage and all sorts of stuff to really bring awareness to what we were doing. And they were very popular to the point where we had to turn people away at times. But it didn't translate into a lot of clients for me. And I, at a certain point, called my brother who was in Marquette, and I said, "Hey, dude, does anybody up there care about records? Do you think I could maybe sell some up there?" And he said, because I needed to make some money and I had a lot of records, and I can't pass up a deal. So I had, duplicates on a lot of things that I thought people might be interested in. And he asked a brewery that had just opened. He asked them if I could come up and sell some records, and they said yes. So I drove up and set up a couple of tables that I borrowed, and sold a whole bunch of records one day. And so I did it again and did it again and again. And at a certain point, my wife, Suma, said, "Hey, are you getting more clients?" I said, "I don't know. It doesn't seem like it. I keep trying, and you're doing good work with the clients I have, but not enough to really keep it going, I think." And she said, "Well, why don't you just sell records and let your office go and keep the clients you like?" So I was surprised that that was her suggestion, but she's often smarter than I am. So I, well, we'll just say she's smarter than I am, not only often. So I let go of the office and kept a few at the time clients. I still have a couple of folks that I talk to, um, and just started focusing on buying and selling records, and it really took over. So I mean, it, well, in March it'll be 13 years ago that I made that first trip to Marquette to do that, and now I do that 5 times a year and participate in shows in Escanaba and Detroit and Grand Ledge and all over.
Nice. I'm sure it probably helped that your wife was kind of pushing you towards your passion.
Yeah, that was a surprise. That's not what you expect typically, or what most people would expect, I suppose, typically. But yes, it was.
It's sweet though.
Yeah, yeah.
What are some of the rarest or most surprising records you've discovered?
Well, I have an acetate. So an acetate is a record that is has been cut on a lathe as a one-off record. Okay, So it's usually somebody, or used to be. They don't usually make them anymore, but it used to be somebody oftentimes making a demo version of a song to send to a record company in the hopes of being hired and given a contract. I have an acetate of "Looking at You" by the MC5. So you know the MC5?
I feel like I do.
They're a Detroit band.
Okay, no.
They're called the Motor. It's the Motor City Five, the MC5. Okay, they're spelled MC numeral five, and they're an important historical pivot point in Michigan and international music history. So so this is a record that was early in their uh, output, and it's a rare version of one of their songs. So I'm happy to found that. I'm always looking for records by a guy called Sun Ra. He's a jazz composer that is no longer with us, but he made a lot of records that he made a lot of records, and a lot of them he and his band made themselves. So they were very limited. They decorated them by hand. They're hard to find, and so I have some of those that I really very fond of.
That sounds really cool. MC5 sounds so familiar, and I don't know why.
Well, when Elektra Records came to Michigan to sign them, they told Elektra Records that they also should sign their little brother band, the Stooges, Iggy and the Stooges. So on the same day, the MC5 and Iggy Pop, Iggy and the Stooges, were signed to what became a major label, and or what was already, I suppose, a major label, though they weren't. None of the labels were as big then as they are now, and changed the course of music history.
That's really cool. How does physical media help create community?
How do you think it does?
Mm, I guess in a way where you're able to like take your record or CD or what be it and say, "Oh my God, I really love this.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this made me think of you. Here you go. You need to try it or you need to listen to it. Take
Mm-hmm.
it. I love it so much." That's what I think of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. I think that's absolutely part and parcel. I mean, that's the crux of it, where it's um, it's something like if I say, "Are you familiar with Ornette Coleman?" We can pull this out and look at the record, the imagery, read about the artist. Um, I mean, it's different in that, like, if I put on a record and we listen to it together, that it's a shared experience in a different way than if I put it on as a digital file. In a certain, I mean, is it different music? Yes and no. Is it a different listening experience? Probably not really, but I can't hand you the cover of the digital file and say, "Look at this." I don't know. There's something very tangible in the physical media. I mean, that's obvious. It comes with the name, right? Physical media. It's tangible, but you don't have MP3 trading fairs.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, you do have platforms where people trade MP3s online, or did, but it's not a whole bunch of people getting together in a room to celebrate something and share stories and get excited about things. Um, I think that physical media creates an opportunity for people to see each other, to be seen. It often starts with something that's not very personal, like, "Oh man, that's such a great album. Oh yeah, I like that too." And then it becomes can turn into a conversation that that moves out of music into life experience, into learning about where a person has been in their world and in their life, and getting
Yeah.
to know a person. And that's not going to happen very often in sending a MP3 to a server to be downloaded by somebody else.
Yeah. I also feel like in today's world where you don't really own a lot of this stuff, like,
Hmm.
yeah, you can download your music online, but if that carrier decides they don't want to have that album on their service anymore, they can just take it off. You don't have it anymore.
Even if you've paid for it.
Yeah.
That's right.
So
That's very
it's
true.
good to have physical media. What is Detroit Vinyl Fest and how is it unique to other Detroit events?
Well, Detroit Vinyl Fest is an outgrowth of Detroit Festival of Books or Detroit Book Fest. Um, I've been selling records at Detroit Book Fest for quite a while, and with John joining me there, I mean, for several years now. We have one corner of the of Shed Five at Eastern Market. I mean, we don't have a corner; we have a few tables set up, but we're always in that area, in that corner, and um, it's popular enough with the people who come to look for books that Ryan said, "Hey, do you think that we could swing it and do a separate event just for records?" And of course, I enthusiastically said yes. And so he set about putting this together, and he's just a brilliant organizer and made it happen. And what makes it unique, um, I mean, like Bookfest, it's free. You can come and walk around and and look at things and talk to people. It, like Bookfest, is very multicultural. I mean, this one coming up in May will be our second event. So I when I say is very multicultural, I am basing it on our one previous experience. But we had a much different range of sellers than I typically see at record shows, which is great. I mean, I feel like that's a change that's happening across the board, but it has happened for Vinyl Fest already. I mean, again, we had the doors open and the air is fresh and clean, and it was a beautiful day, and we had great DJs spinning vinyl records all day, and uh, people showed up uh, 2, 3 hours early to start
Oh,
shopping.
wow.
I mean, it was on a Friday because we were we, there wasn't a weekend option available, and we wanted to get it going, and so we said yes to doing it on a Friday, even though we knew that people were going to push back on that, and certainly there was some concern about from when I would try and from people when I'd say, "Hey, would you like to participate in this thing on a Friday? Why not on the weekend?" Say, well, we weren't able to get it on the weekend, so we're trying it out. Well, people showed up, like I said, 2, 3 hours early, and I was busy until the very end. And we had vendors from uh, Ohio, Indiana, I think Illinois, though I don't remember for sure. And I think we're going to have a wider range of vendors at this next one. But there were a lot of folks there that I don't typically see at other events. The fact that it's free, I think, is great because there's no barrier,
Yeah.
and and I really think it brings it like Bookfest brings people into Detroit that might not otherwise be willing to try it.
Yeah.
And I think that well, we know that for a lot of people, Detroit has a bad rap or
Yeah. That
bad
makes
rep.
me so sad. I love Detroit.
I do too. I do too. I mean, we are not physically in the boundaries of Detroit right now, but I've lived in many parts of Detroit in the past, and I really uh, want the world to know that not it's we're not just the place that cars come from. We're
Yeah.
not just the place that punk rock, techno, jazz, rockabilly. I mean, like some of the foundational artists in almost any genre come from here. Now, there are a lot of great musicians from a lot of other places, but when you look at any genre, there's a thread that comes back to Detroit faster than most other places.
And that it's so odd to me that you don't hear about that more often because I feel like everyone is pushing places like Nashville, you know what I mean? You gotta go to Nashville, Tennessee. You wanna do music, you gotta go there. But it's like people come from Detroit too, you know what
Hmm.
I mean?
Hmm.
Um, so your wife Suma runs a nonprofit called Inside Out Detroit.
It's Inside Out Literary Arts.
Okay,
People often say Inside Out Detroit, and I'm not sure why. It's Inside Out, one word, Literary Arts.
okay.
Hmm.
What do you admire most about your wife's work with Inside Out?
Oh, that's a good question. I admire her um, tenacity, her stubbornness, her willingness to put herself out there and be transparent, honest, and open about how moved she is by the work that the students do. Because what Inside Out Literary Arts does is teaches poetry and performance to kids, to in the not all kids, but the kids in the programs in the schools in Detroit that have partnered with Inside Out. Um, I don't know if all schools could, and that's not something I know about, but I know that they're interested in expanding into other schools. But the kids that go through that programming do better in school. They uh, graduate and they go on to do big things. There's at least one city in the United States that has or has had a poet laureate that was an alum of Inside Out's program, um, or graduate of their programming. Their mission is to help kids. What is it? Think broadly, create bravely, and share their vision with share their voices with the wider world. I think I've said that correctly, but they really help kids find their authentic voice and share it unapologetically, and it's awesome.
Sounds like it. That sounds really cool. And then so last question
Mm.
is where can people find you online?
Hmm. I am Michigan.records on Instagram. I mean, I sell records on a website called Discogs, Discogs, short for discographies.com. So I'm Michigan dot records there. But really, Michigan Records on Instagram is probably the easiest at the moment. And you could message me through that if you're looking for something. It also has links to my other places. So I think that's probably the best bet.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for sitting down with me today, Jeff. I had a great time talking to you, and I hope you have a great rest of your week.
Thanks for coming. I appreciate you making the time to talk to me too, Allie.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.